John Carter stood at the large window of the diplomatic quarter, his hands shaking as he watched the emergency news broadcast. The peaceful blue-skinned Valorans, Earth's first and most loyal friends among the stars, were under attack. Council ships hung in orbit over the Valoran homeworld, firing bright beams that cut through cities like knives through paper. "This can't be happening," he whispered. The other diplomats around him were silent, faces pale with shock. As Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for the past 3 years, John had worked hard to build trust between humans and the 37 alien species that made up the Council. The Valorans had been the ones who first welcomed humans to the stars, sharing their technology and helping Earth join the galactic community. Now they were dying. John rushed to the communication panel on the wall. "Get me a direct line to the Valoran capital," he ordered. The young aide beside him tried several channels, but only static came through. "They're blocking all signals, sir," the aide said. On the screens around them, the attack continued. Council enforcement vessels, massive ships with pointed, blade-like fronts, moved into position above the largest Valoran cities. The weapons fire was precise and methodical. This was not battle. It was execution. "Who ordered this?" John demanded, turning to face the council representatives who had gathered in the room. Most looked away, but a few seemed pleased. The arthropodal speaker Zix Tauri clicked his mandibles together in what John had learned was their version of satisfaction. The vote was taken while Earth's delegation was reviewing the agricultural treaty, Zix Tauri said. The council found the Valoran guilty of developing illegal bioweapons. The sentence is standard for such violations. John knew this was a lie. He had visited Valoran research centers himself. Their biotech was advanced, but focused on healing and growing food, not weapons. Someone wanted them gone, and had made up a reason. 40 light-years away, in Earth's military headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Patricia Moore received the emergency transmission from the few Valoran ships that had escaped the initial attack. "Play it again," she ordered, her weathered face hard as stone. At 62, Patricia had lived through wars on Earth before humans ever looked to the stars. The desperate message from the Valorans reminded her of calls she'd heard from sinking ships during her Navy days. A hologram showed a Valoran captain, blood the color of lime running from a wound on his high forehead. "Earth allies, we are betrayed. The Council voted for our extinction without trial. Our colonies are under attack. The homeworld." The message cut off in static. Patricia turned to her officers. "Status of our fleet. The explorer ships are at Jupiter Station, Admiral. The science vessels are spread across our solar system. The Council observers believe all our ships are research or transportation vessels. As instructed." Patricia nodded slowly. For 3 years, Earth had pretended its ships were peaceful only. The Council had strict rules about new member species developing warships, but humans hadn't survived centuries of their own wars without learning caution. "Begin activation of all combat systems. Send code Broken Shield to all ship captains," she said, "and get me the president." On the main screen, more emergency signals began lighting up. Valoran colonies across 3 star systems calling for help. The Council ships were thorough in their work. "How long until our nearest ship could reach Valoran space?" Patricia asked. "The EWS Dauntless could be there in 6 days using conventional drives, Admiral. And using the special drive. 16 hours, but the Council doesn't know we have that technology." Patricia's eyes narrowed. They're about to learn. As she waited for the president to answer, a final transmission came through. It showed a Valoran science vessel, badly damaged but still flying. Aboard was a single survivor, a Valoran scientist named Kalia. Her message was simple: "I have proof. The Council lied. I am coming to Earth." The war that no one on Earth had wanted was about to begin. Lieutenant Richard Daniels moved silently through the dim halls of the Council station's lower levels. As Earth's military attaché, he wasn't supposed to be in this restricted area. But the attack on the Valorans had changed everything. He pressed his palm against a door panel, using the access code he had copied from an unsuspecting council security officer. The door slid open, revealing a small room filled with data terminals. "I've got 10 minutes before the security scan picks up my presence," he whispered to himself, plugging the small device into the main console. While Richard worked 3 levels above him, council representatives argued loudly about the Valoran situation. Most of them had not known about the attack until it was already happening. Now they were being asked to support it after the fact. The evidence clearly shows the Valorans were developing a bioweapon that could target specific genetic patterns, Speaker Zix Tauri insisted, his multiple arms gesturing at the holographic displays. The council's action was preventative. Several representatives nodded in agreement, but others seemed uncertain. The Valorans had been known throughout the galaxy as healers and traders. They had never shown hostility to any species. In a dark corner of the chamber, Ambassador John Carter watched and recorded everything. His official request to speak had been denied. That alone told him something was deeply wrong with this process. His communication device vibrated. It was a message from Richard. "Got it. Evidence was falsified. Malthurian Corporation Genetech lost 3 trillion credits to Valoran medical patents last cycle. 6 council members received massive bribes. Sending proof now." John's face remained neutral, though his heart raced. This wasn't about security. It was about money and power. Back on Earth, President Laura Wilson faced the hardest decision of her career. The images from Valoran space played on screens throughout the White House Situation Room. Cities burning, refugee ships being shot down, a civilization being erased. The death toll is already in the millions, Defense Secretary Alan Grant said, his voice grim. And our intelligence suggests the Council won't stop until all Valorans are eliminated. Laura closed her eyes briefly. When Earth had joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago, it had seemed like the beginning of a golden age. Humans would learn from advanced alien cultures. Trade would bring prosperity. Wars would be a thing of the past. Now she was about to take humanity into its first interstellar war. "What are our chances if we intervene?" she asked. Admiral Moore spoke up from the video screen. "On paper, terrible. The Council has thousands of ships. We have 48, but they don't know what our ships can really do." The President looked around the room. "I need the vote of the Security Council before I can authorize military action." Within an hour, the 15 nations with seats on the United Nations Security Council had assembled. Some joined by secure video. Others sent representatives to the White House. The debate was shorter than anyone expected. China's ambassador spoke first. "The Valorans helped us clean our air and oceans. They asked for nothing in return." Russia's representative nodded. "They shared medical technology that has saved millions of Russian lives." One by one, each nation expressed the same sentiment. When the vote came, it was unanimous. Earth would fight. As the meeting ended, a military aide rushed in. "Madam President, we've received a transmission. A Valoran ship has entered our solar system. It's badly damaged but still flying." The pilot identifies herself as Kalia, a senior scientist from the Valoran Academy. The President stood up. "Bring her here as soon as she lands. If she has evidence, I want it ready to broadcast to every species in the Council." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, several minor Council species had secretly reached out to Earth's diplomats. They offered information, resources, even military support. They had their own reasons. Fear. If the Council could destroy the peaceful Valorans without real evidence, who would be next? The lines were being drawn. Earth would not stand alone, but the fight ahead would test humanity like nothing before. Frank Martinez walked slowly along the massive underground hangar, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Above him loomed the hull of Earth's most powerful warship, the EWS Retribution. For 3 years, he had led the team that built this vessel and others like it. Now, The time for secrecy was over. "So this is what you've been hiding from the Council," President Laura Wilson said as she walked beside him. Her eyes were wide as she took in the true nature of Earth's fleet. Frank nodded. "When we joined the Galactic Council, they told us new members couldn't build warships. So we didn't." He smiled slightly. "We just built ships that could become warships when needed." They stopped at a viewing platform. Below them, technicians worked rapidly, attaching weapons systems to what had officially been labeled as scientific equipment. "The Council thinks these are research vessels," Frank explained. "Every ship we've built has a peaceful exterior that can transform in less than 5 minutes." Admiral Moore joined them on the platform. "The Valorans knew what we were doing," she said. "They never said anything to the Council. Instead, they quietly helped us improve our designs." The president looked troubled. "Will it be enough? The Council has been in space for thousands of years. We've barely left our solar system." Frank's face grew serious. "What we lack in experience, we make up for in innovation. Let me show you." He led them to a secure room where a holographic display showed the inner workings of the fleet's most important technology. "This is the displacement drive," Frank said. "Normal ships in the galaxy use jump gates or fold space in predictable ways. Ours simply disappears from one point and appears at another." "How is that possible?" the president asked. "The Valorans discovered the basic science, but they never weaponized it. Their culture doesn't think that way." Frank's voice grew sad. "They shared it with us for peaceful exploration. We saw its military potential immediately." Admiral Moore touched a control panel, and the display changed to show Council ship designs. The Valorans also shared information about Council defensive systems. They wanted us to be safe while traveling. They never imagined we would need to use this knowledge against the Council itself. The president nodded slowly. "So we have surprises they won't expect. But they still outnumber us by thousands." "Numbers aren't everything in war," Admiral Moore said, "especially when your enemy can appear inside your formation without warning." On the bridge of the EWS Retribution, Captain Olivia Harris addressed her crew. The ship was nearly ready for its first combat mission, and tension filled the air. "Most of you joined Earth's space program to explore," she said, looking at the men and women at their stations. "Now we go to war instead. The Council believes their superior technology makes them unbeatable." She touched a button on her command chair, and the main screen showed images of the destroyed Valoran cities. "This is what they did to our friends. The Valorans welcomed us to the stars. They healed our sick. They helped clean our planet." Her voice hardened. "The Council thinks because they've been in space longer, they're better at everything. But humans have something they don't understand." "What's that, Captain?" a young crew member asked. "We've been fighting each other for our entire history. We know war in ways peaceful species can't imagine." She stood straighter. "While they've been at peace for 1,000 years, we've been thinking of new ways to win battles against superior forces." The bridge grew quiet as her words sank in. Then the ship's eye spoke. "Captain, displacement drive is ready. We can depart on your command." Olivia nodded. "Set coordinates for the Valoran colony at New Hope. There may still be survivors there." As the crew prepared for their first jump into combat, somewhere else in the ship, the Valoran scientist Kalia worked with human engineers. Together, they were finalizing a system that would allow Earth's ships to communicate without the Council detecting their signals. Earth was going to war, but in a way the Galactic Council would never expect. Captain Eric Gregory stood on the bridge of the EWS Vengeance, watching the stars on the main screen. Ahead, barely visible, hung 5 massive Council enforcement vessels. They were finishing their attack on the Valoran colony world below. Smoke rose from the surface where cities had once stood. "All systems ready, Captain," his first officer reported. "Weapons hot. Displacement drive charged." Eric nodded. His mouth felt dry. No human had ever fought a space battle before. But no Council species had ever faced humans in combat either. "Begin the attack pattern," he ordered. "Remember your training. Target their communication arrays first, just like we planned." The officer at the weapons station looked up. "Sir, there are 3 of us and 15 of them. Their ships are twice our size." Eric smiled grimly. "Numbers aren't everything, Lieutenant. Execute jump now." The stars on the screen blurred for a moment. When they cleared, the Vengeance was no longer at the edge of the system. It had appeared directly in the middle of the Council fleet. For 3 precious seconds, the Council ships did not react. Their sensors showed an unknown vessel had simply materialized among them. Something their technology said was impossible. The Vengeance fired its main weapons before they could recover. Not at the Council ship's weapons or engines, but at the tall communication spires that rose from their hulls. 2 more flashes announced the arrival of Earth's other warships, the Defiance and the Justice. They too targeted communication arrays. "They're trying to respond," the sensor officer called out. "But they can't coordinate their actions. Each ship is fighting alone." Eric nodded. This was humanity's advantage. Council ships were powerful, but relied heavily on central command. Human ships were designed to fight independently. "Execute jump pattern beta," Eric ordered. The Vengeance disappeared again, reappearing behind the largest Council vessel. Its weapons fired once more, this time targeting engines. On the Council flagship, alarms blared as commanders tried to understand what was happening. Their sensors couldn't track the Earth ships that seemed to teleport around the battlefield. When they turned to face one threat, it vanished only to appear somewhere else. Within 20 minutes, the battle was over. 3 Council ships were destroyed. The rest drifted in space, disabled but with crews mostly alive. Eric opened a channel to all the damaged Council vessels. "This is Captain Eric Gregory of Earth. You attacked a peaceful species without just cause. We have disabled your ships but spared your lives. Remember that when you return to your Council." In the Council's Grand Chamber, Ambassador John Carter walked slowly to the speaking platform. Silence fell as he took his position. Every representative from 37 species watched him with different emotions: fear, anger, curiosity. "Today I speak not just for Earth, but for the Valorans who can no longer speak for themselves," he began, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. "Earth formally declares war against those Council members who voted for the destruction of the Valoran civilization." Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. A declaration of war from a new species was unprecedented. "We do not fight the entire Council," John continued, "only those responsible for genocide. We have evidence that the claims against the Valorans were falsified." He played a recording showing the data Richard Daniels had discovered. "To those Council members who stood aside or were deceived, we offer peace. To those who destroyed our friends for profit or power, we promise justice." As he spoke, screens around the chamber lit up showing the recent battle. Council representatives watched in shock as Earth ships appeared and disappeared around their fleet, using technology they had never seen before. Speaker Zix Tauri rose from his seat, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "This is a violation of Council law. New member species are forbidden from having warships." John's eyes were cold as he replied, "You violated Council law first when you destroyed the Valorans without a fair trial. Now you face the consequences." At that same moment, Commander Samantha Green led a team of Earth ships to the remains of a Valoran colony. Using the displacement drive, they arrived before the Council could finish their destruction. Council ships fled as the Earth vessels appeared. On the surface, Samantha's team found hundreds of surviving Valorans hiding in underground shelters. As the blue-skinned aliens emerged into the light, they looked up in fear at the ships above them. When they saw Earth's flag, they began to cheer. The war had just begun, but already the galaxy was changing. The Grand Council chamber had never been so empty. Where once representatives from 37 species sat together, now only 23 remained. The others had withdrawn, unwilling to stand with those who had destroyed the Valorans. Speaker Zix Tauri's mandibles clicked in agitation as he addressed the reduced assembly. This human rebellion must be crushed immediately. They have violated our most sacred laws by building warships. From the back of the chamber, a tall, gray-skinned figure stood. High Commander Drex of the Malthurian Empire rarely attended council meetings in person. His presence today showed how serious the situation had become. "The humans are more dangerous than we expected," Drex said, his voice deep and cold. "My intelligence agents report they have only 48 ships, but those ships can appear anywhere without using jump gates." The council members murmured nervously. For thousands of years, all space travel had depended on fixed routes and predictable patterns. A ship that could simply appear was a nightmare for defense. "I am deploying the Malthurian Armada," Drex continued. "We will end this human problem before it spreads." In truth, Drex was more worried than he showed. For centuries, his species had manipulated the Council from the shadows. The Malthurians were not the largest or oldest species, but they had maintained power through careful control of technology and information. Now humans threatened that control. Admiral William Johnson of Earth's Second Fleet watched his screen as another council ship surrendered without a fight. "That's the fifth one today, sir," his aide reported. "They're requesting amnesty according to your terms." William nodded. Earth's strategy was working. After their first victories, they had offered safety to any council ships that provided intelligence or stood down. Many captains were choosing to surrender rather than face Earth's unpredictable attack methods. "What information did they bring?" William asked. "Sir, they confirm what we suspected. The Malthurians were behind the attack on the Valorans. They'd been manipulating the Council for centuries." William's eyes narrowed. "And now they're bringing out their main fleet." The Malthurian Armada was legendary, a force of 300 warships that had not been fully deployed in over a century. Against Earth's 48 vessels, the odds seemed impossible. But humans had faced impossible odds before. At Council Station Alpha, a massive space habitat where thousands of diplomats and officials lived, tension filled the air. Half the station had declared support for Earth. The other half remained loyal to the Council leadership. In the central plaza, human security forces faced Malthurian elite guards across a line of hastily erected barriers. Between them stood Ambassador John Carter, speaking through a translator to the Malthurian commander. "Your ships attacked our allies without provocation," John said firmly. "Now you threaten Earth. We will not stand down." The Malthurian commander towered over John, his gray skin gleaming under the station lights. "Your species is barely out of its cradle," he sneered. "Our empire was old when your ancestors were still living in caves." "Age doesn't always bring wisdom," John replied. "Sometimes it just brings arrogance." As they spoke throughout the station, other species watched and whispered. Many had suffered under Malthurian influence for generations, but had been too afraid to resist. Now humans were standing up to the galaxy's hidden masters. On the bridge of the EWS Justice, Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez studied the captured Malthurian weapon they had taken from a disabled ship. "It's incredible technology," she told Captain Eric Gregory. "But there's something strange about it." "What do you mean?" Eric asked. "It's designed to intimidate, to look advanced and powerful. But underneath," she opened the casing to reveal the inner workings. "Our solutions are actually more efficient. They'd been relying on their head start for so long, they've stopped innovating." Eric smiled slowly. This confirmed what they had begun to suspect after their first battles. The Council's technological advantage was not as great as it appeared. In some areas, human adaptability had already surpassed alien designs that had remained unchanged for centuries. "Can we use this?" he asked. Maria nodded. "I think we can. They've never had to fight an enemy who thinks like we do." The war was about to enter a new phase. The Malthurian Armada was coming, but Earth was ready. High Commander Drex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Malthurian dreadnought Eternal Dominance. Before him, a holographic display showed Earth, a blue and green planet that had caused his empire so much trouble. Begin the attack, he ordered. Show these humans what happens when they challenge the true masters of the galaxy. 200 Malthurian warships moved toward Earth, their weapons charged. Drex had made a simple calculation. Humans would surely surrender rather than see their homeworld destroyed. No species would risk their birth planet. What he didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this moment. As the Malthurian fleet approached Earth orbit, Admiral Patricia Moore watched from her command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. On screens around her, Earth's defense grid came fully online for the first time. "They think we're defenseless," she said to President Laura Wilson, who stood beside her. "Let's show them how wrong they are." From hidden bases on the Moon, Mars, and Earth's oceans, defensive platforms rose into position. Weapons that had been disguised as research stations powered up. The planet that had seemed vulnerable was suddenly bristling with defenses. "All orbital platforms report ready, Admiral," a young officer announced. Patricia nodded. "Captain Rodriguez, coordinate the orbital defense. Admiral Moore will lead the counterattack from the EWS Retribution." On the main screen, the first wave of Malthurian ships entered Earth's outer defense perimeter. They moved with confidence, expecting little resistance. The first shots from Earth's platforms caught them by surprise. 3 Malthurian cruisers exploded in bright flashes of light. High Commander Drex stared in disbelief at his tactical display. "How did they build such defenses without our knowledge?" he demanded. His second-in-command had no answer. For centuries, the Malthurians had placed spies on every developing world. Somehow, humans had hidden their true military capacity from these watchers. "Continue the attack," Drex ordered. "Send in the dreadnoughts. Prepare the planet-killer weapon." In Earth orbit, Captain Diana Rodriguez coordinated the defense from her command station. She had trained for this moment for years, though she had hoped it would never come. "Platforms 7 through 15, focus fire on the lead ships," she ordered. "Platforms 1 through 6, target their engines." The battle for Earth had become the largest space conflict in Council history. Malthurian ships pressed forward despite heavy losses. They were determined to reach firing position for their planet-killer weapon. "The Eternal Dominance is breaking through Sector 4, an officer shouted. Diana saw it on her screen. The massive Malthurian flagship was pushing past Earth's defenses, its forward weapons charging with ominous energy. At that moment, the EWS Defiance appeared directly in the flagship's path, using its displacement drive to jump into position. "This is Captain Kyle Barnes of the Defiance," came the transmission. "We can't let that ship fire its main weapon." Everyone watching knew what would happen next. The Defiance was too small to destroy the Malthurian dreadnought with weapons alone. "Defiance, pull back," Diana ordered. "That's an order. Sometimes you have to break the rules," Captain Barnes replied calmly. For Earth. The EWS Defiance accelerated to full speed, aiming directly at the heart of the Malthurian flagship. The smaller human ship crashed through the dreadnought's outer hull, its reactor detonating on impact. The explosion tore through the Eternal Dominance, disabling its planet-killer weapon moments before it could fire. In the chaos that followed, President Laura Wilson made a difficult decision. "Activate the Sunflare Protocol," she ordered. Patricia Moore's hand hovered over the activation control. "This is untested technology, Madam President. We've never used it in actual combat." "We have no choice," Laura replied. "It's time to end this." Throughout Earth's defense grid, a new type of weapon powered up, one that combined human nuclear technology with Valoran energy manipulation theories. When it fired, it didn't destroy the Malthurian ships. Instead, it sent a pulse of energy that washed over their vessels. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the advanced systems on the Malthurian ships began to fail. Their weapons went offline. Their engines stopped. Even their life support systems struggled to function. The Sunflare hadn't destroyed them. It had simply rendered their technology temporarily useless. "Begin boarding operations," Admiral Moore ordered. I want High Commander Drex captured alive." The Grand Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador John Carter walked to the center platform. Behind him stood High Commander Drex, no longer proud and powerful. The Malthurian's gray skin had a sickly pallor, and his hands were bound with energy restraints. 3 weeks ago, the Valorans were attacked without just cause. John began, his voice echoing through the hall. Today, we present evidence of why that happened. On giant screens around the chamber, documents and recordings appeared, evidence gathered from Malthurian databases after their defeat at Earth. For over 500 years, the Malthurian Empire has secretly controlled this council. John continued. They had eliminated any species that threatened their power or their profits. Representatives from dozens of worlds watched in shock as the truth was revealed. The Valorans had been destroyed not because they were developing weapons, but because their medical technology was becoming more advanced than Malthurian science. The era of Malthurian control ends today, John announced. Earth does not seek to replace one empire with another. We seek justice for our fallen friends. At the edge of what had once been the first Valoran colony, Admiral Patricia Moore stood with Kalia, the Valoran scientist who had survived the initial attack. Before them stretched a field of blue flowers, plants native to the Valoran homeworld that had been planted as a memorial. "Your people would have been proud of what you've done," Patricia said softly. Kalia's large eyes reflected the blue of the flowers. "Many of us survived because of Earth's help. We will rebuild." Around them gathered representatives from 22 former Council worlds. They had come to sign what would become known as the Valoran Accords, a new framework for galactic cooperation. "The old Council was based on fear and control," said Patricia. "The new alliance will be based on mutual respect and defense." As the signing ceremony began, Earth ships patrolled overhead. In just 1 month, humanity had gone from being newcomers in space to becoming one of the most respected and feared species in the galaxy. Kalia stepped forward to sign the document first. "My people never imagined we would need warriors to survive in this galaxy. We were wrong, but we chose our friends well." Captain Eric Gregory sat in his quarters aboard the EWS Vengeance, recording his final log entry before returning to Earth. "It's been 6 weeks since we first engaged the Council forces," he said. "What began as a mission of revenge for our Valoran friends has become something more. Humanity has now taken its place among the stars, not just as explorers or traders, but as defenders." He paused, looking at a small piece of blue crystal on his desk, a gift from a Valoran child he had rescued. "We came to space hoping to find wisdom and friendship. We found both in the Valorans. We also found that even among the stars, there are those who choose power over peace." Eric picked up the crystal, turning it in the light. "Earth's warships will remain active, not to conquer, but to ensure that what happened to the Valorans never happens again to any peaceful species. The displacement drive that gives us our advantage will be shared only with allies we trust completely." Outside his window, the stars stretched into infinity. The Council destroyed our Valoran allies, thinking there would be no consequences. They didn't understand that humans never forget our friends, and we never leave our debts unpaid. On Earth, in the rebuilt United Nations headquarters, President Laura Wilson addressed the Global Assembly. Behind her stood representatives from the surviving Valoran colonies, their blue skins standing out among the human delegates. "We have established the Valoran Memorial Fund to help rebuild what was lost," she announced. "And we have offered sanctuary to all Valorans who wish to make Earth their home." The assembly rose in a standing ovation as Valoran children entered the chamber, carrying plants from their homeworld. One small blue-skinned girl approached the president and offered her a seed. "This is from our rarest healing tree," the child said. "My grandmother says it grows best where there is both strength and kindness." As she accepted the gift, Laura knew that humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun. They had proven themselves in war. Now they would need to prove themselves in peace. The galaxy would never be the same again.